Right, there are really two old school methods to be used. One of them is called STEEP. It's an acronym. It stands for social, technological, environmental, economic, and political. And these are categories. And what you do with the STEEP categories is you take an idea like a future contingency of interest, and you ask yourself, or you discuss in your group, what impact will this FCI have in each one of these categories? And if you have a bunch of FCIs that happen to be related to one another, you just lay them out, and then you can have a discussion which begins to enable you to see the contrasts and connections. So have a big sheet of paper on the board, or small sheets of paper in front of people, and you just lay it out this way: STEEP, and you take your FCI, whatever it is, and in this case we're talking about the U.S. abandons free trade, and we begin to look at what happens. And here's where your facilitator steps in, because the facilitator is just really trying to keep things freed up for balanced discussion of what's going to happen. So you go to your first, I don't know, you don't have to start from left to right, you can pick where you want to start. You can start with technology, for example. Someone around your table may be an expert and have some really interesting information to contribute. If we abandon free trade, I guess you could argue that more of the technology we invent here will stay here. There's been a lot of problem with piracy of U.S. Intellectual property over the years and has cost our economy billions and billions of dollars. When push comes to shove, we have chosen to continue trade relationships with countries where there is a lot of intellectual piracy, because we have felt that it is better to keep trading with them than to shut things down and wait for them to end these practices. China is an example of such a country. Now, your facilitator is keeping track of comments, and at this point is going to record a view that perhaps it will reduce our losses of technology to pirating. But somebody else is going to point out that increasingly in this world, the flow of technology is not just one way from us to everybody else, and that if we shut down our trading relationships in any significant way, what may happen is that others pull ahead of us and we don't share in the licensing and the benefits from technologies that they've invented. Let's have a look then at the economic implications of this over here. Well, someone may say, look, it'll keep U.S. jobs in the United States. Instead of having, let's say, Komatsu earth-moving machinery brought in to carry out the improvements of our infrastructure that we're going to be paying for, it'll be Caterpillar or John Deere, and that'll be a good thing. It'll keep business in the United States. And so your facilitator is going to record a point up here, which is it's going to keep jobs and production in the United States that would otherwise go abroad. And then somebody else who may have a different view of how a business is operating will say something like this: look, there are cases where an ability to buy something more inexpensively that is made abroad is going to help the U.S. grow economically because of its effect downstream. So if you carry this process out, it doesn't take long before you have an array of insights up here showing how there are ins and outs to every one of these propositions about what will happen in the future.